Welcome to our first RedLaw Spotlight video interview. Our first Spotlight interview was back in 2014, so we're able to celebrate our 10-year anniversary of Spotlight interviews together with our 15th anniversary of RedLaw with our first interview with Grant Gordon, who is the managing partner of Fladgate. Grant has been with the firm for 16 years and been the managing partner for the last 3. We're delighted that Grant's given us some of his time, and we're going to ask him a range of questions, from some personal questions through to his role as managing partner and how he sees the challenges of the legal sector. So Grant,
Hi Jonathan.
we're going to start asking you some questions about being the managing partner of Fladgate. You've obviously been here a long time, I think 16 years?
Yes.
Last 3 years as managing partner. What made you want to step up to be managing partner of a firm in let's say, lots of different challenges in the legal sector, in life generally?
Yeah.
What made you want to take that step?
Well, I suppose it seemed a good idea at the time. Well, seriously, I think really I was up for a challenge. And I'm a believer in doing things as opposed to either complaining about it or being quiet about things. And I thought it was a good opportunity to change, to try and bring some change, some positive change to the firm. And luckily, some of my partners agreed.
And how do you see? I mean, you talked about positive change. What's the plans for Fladgate during your term?
I think we've often said that Fladgate was in the mid-market and perhaps had an identity that needed to be fluffed out and pushed out, and trying to establish what it was in the market as opposed to what it wasn't. I mean, it's quite easy to define yourself in the negative by what you're not. I think I felt a very positive pull to trying to establish what we were all about. So I think the idea is to coalesce our partners' thinking, bring some strategy to bear, and I think the idea is that we're very, very comfortable in being a mid-sized firm. We totally devoted to the mid-market, and try and see if we can bring elements of differentiation to the services we offer. We do that by understanding exactly who our clients are and what they need. The mid-market often is poorly serviced as firms get bigger and as firms get smaller. So we don't quite buy into the mantra that the mid-market is dead, and we see huge opportunity for the mid-market.
Okay, because you were obviously based in Mayfair for many years, now here in a lovely setting in Covent Gardens. Is the plan still to remain here? Because I know a lot of the city law firms are now based in the city, particularly by Liverpool Street. There's a whole row of law. I should change it to Law Firm Street. Is the plan to stay in Covent Garden?
It is. At the moment, we're at 16 Great Queen Street, and our lease goes to 2029, so we're here for a while. I think we call it Midtown. I think that's a term of affection. Neither City nor West End, and I think it has a character of its own. Fantastic access to restaurants and theatre and stuff, but on the other hand, quite close to courts and not too far from the city itself. So I think we enjoy being here in Midtown. No plans to move too far away, but let's see what the demands of the business are and what rentals do when we have to start thinking about this in about 4 years' time.
And talking about demands of the business, what do you think is the hardest leadership lesson you've learned as being the managing partner?
In management, I think there's always the constant tug between what's good for the individual and what's good for the firm. And you can probably distill almost every decision that you make about anything into a balance between what's good for an individual and what's good for the firm. And I think that's a thing I've really come to understand. And some things, some decisions are important to do because they're good for the individual, and some decisions are good, are good for the firm. Trying to discern which way to go is, I think, an experience that is needed by a person in any management position. It's always easy to say yes. It's always hard to say no. But doing something where you feel it's the right thing for the firm, as opposed to the right thing for the individual, is, I think, the real test of getting that balance right.
And I meet a lot of partners who will ask me if there's management roles, any managing partner roles. What advice would you give to someone that's aspiring for a management or a leadership role in a law firm?
Yeah, I think the answer is in the way you phrased the question, in a way. I think there's a difference between management and leadership. They're not the same thing, and often they're confused. Anyone who is proposing to stand for some kind of role needs to understand that there is a management piece and there's a leadership piece. They're definitely not the same thing, and they require different skills. I think in a managing partner role, you have to be able to manage, but you also have to have that leadership aspect to it. So I think if the question is what kind of advice you would give, it's not to spend too much time in either management to the detriment of leadership, and not to spend too much time in leadership to the detriment of management. So finding that balance between the two.
And what about the third leg, sort of maintaining a practice? Because some firms will have leaders, whether it's departments or managed partners, have it still maintaining a working practice, and others will say, no, hand over the clients to others and you just focus on management leadership.
I think that depends on the firm. That depends.
What about here?
I think if you're a working partner, it keeps you grounded in terms of still delivering for clients. And I think that gives you credibility internally in terms of your partners, where they see that you're working in terms of servicing clients' needs and still advising. And so I think it's an important part of one's role as keeping one as a lawyer, as a well-rounded lawyer. I can understand in very big firms where the demands are so big, so great in terms of its geographical location and travel, that it might not be possible, in which then you would have to pass your practice on to other partners to look after. And I think it also depends on whether clients perhaps see you as the main, of counsel, or the main advisor, whether they see the firm generally as providing a service. So I don't think there's one size fits all. I think it depends. But for me personally, I have remained a working partner. So I think that's an important thing to do.
You're a busy partner.
Yeah.
And going back to your point about leadership and management, I think one of the biggest challenges law firms have right now is, and this is across not just in the UK but globally, is the post-COVID, the working from home hybrid model versus maintaining a culture. And I think initially, from what we saw from a recruitment perspective, lots of firms rushed into a work when you want, do what you want, come in when you want model in a kind of attempt to keep staff and for retention purposes. But actually what we saw from a recruitment side is the opposite. It actually loosened the culture and made all the practices why people come in, see colleagues, coffees, all those sort of psychological factors disappear, and it made people actually leave more than stay. So it had a sort of unintended consequence. How do you see that? I don't want to call it a clash, but how do you see a solution, and particularly going forward, between hybrid working and maintaining a cohesive culture where people feel part of something?
I think that's really, this question is a perfect manifestation of what's good for the individual as opposed to what's good for the firm. And making those decisions. I think what we've learned since COVID and all of that is to really be much more individualized and much more bespoke. I don't think one size fits all anymore. And that's been the test and the strain that's placed on management, is how do you create situations which are a benefit for particular partners or particular fee owners or particular members of staff that are right for them. And the realization, the understanding is that if it's right for them, they're going to be happy, and if they're happy, they're going to be productive within the firm. So trying to find that balance is the important thing. I don't think it's a one size fits all. I think generally, though, I agree with you in that I think culture, in whatever way that manifests or is derived, can be affected by a more remote environment in which agile working. But I think that just puts more burden on management to work harder to find other ways to maintain culture and the glue that holds us all together. It's a hard profession, we all know that. And the firms that do well are the firms that, where the people enjoy working and seeing each other and interacting with each other. It is a person-to-person business. It's a very personal thing that we do in the practice of law. So I would say you've got to find what's right for the individual. I think you have to have some broad-based principles. I don't think we don't operate a laissez-faire, do what you want. I don't think we're ever going to go back to 5 days a week in the office. We weren't 5 days a week even before COVID. We always had an agile model. We had a system where you could apply to work from home for 2 days a week even before COVID. So we were quite innovative back in those days. It was quite unheard of. And we did have quite a few people doing it. I think now, though, it's much more expected and things like that. But to come back to your point about culture, I think you need to be in the office generally in order to preserve culture.
Yeah, and looking at culture, which sort of leads on to my next question, which is also linked to the working from home, and particularly for junior lawyers, with AI evolving and technology, there's lots of articles out there, sensationalized articles perhaps, that says, AI will be a real threat to the need for lawyers, particularly junior lawyers, and some of the technology, whether it's in litigation or other areas or real estate, might be able to replace lawyers. Well, first of all, what's your thoughts on that, as the sort of disruptor of technology? And second of all, if lawyers aren't here as much, or generally they're at home more, do they become less relevant in any event and less visible, and therefore it will help technology rise and replace them?
Yeah, I don't think, technology serves many functions in any business, and I don't think law is any different. So I think there's technology that is driving efficiencies and business processes and things like that. So that is technology that is necessary, and every firm needs to adopt. It doesn't matter which size you are, but driving efficiencies and e-billing systems and other ways of communicating and interrogating information and things like that. I think that's just ordinary technological growth. When it comes to AI, I'm not a believer that AI is going to replace lawyers. I think I ascribe, and I didn't coin this phrase, so I'm just borrowing from someone else, that a lawyer that can use AI is going to replace a lawyer that can't use AI. So I think that's how I would look at it. I think AI is going to be a part of the services we offer, but I don't think it's going to replace lawyers. I think there is still huge value to the interpretation, the business acumen, the advice, the real-world experience that various lawyers, certainly within Fladgate, can offer clients. And I don't think that can just be replicated by AI, not only because I don't think the AI can just do that, but because I don't think the client is at the stage where it wishes the advice to come from an AI-generated source as opposed to a real-world experience of a human being. So I think those who are calling or shouting out that the end of the lawyer is nigh, I think are going to find themselves disproven.
Let's hope so. For both of us.
It's not like I don't have a stake in
that. Which brings me on, I guess, to my next challenge facing law firms, particularly what we're seeing in the market, talking to partners, which is really age. And at the other end, where partners, retirement ages in most firms, I'm generalising a bit, but across the UK is between 60 to say 65.
Yeah.
That's on average. And I'm seeing lots of partners that we speak to who are either approaching 60, just over 60, who, we all know we live longer, we're healthier, people enjoy what they do, they've got great client relationships, and yet they're forced to either seek an alternative partnership or being offered a consultancy or something different. What's your view on people at that stage, and why should they be forced to, I guess the question is, should there be a mandatory retirement age?
Okay, so this is obviously a sensitive topic. We're an entrepreneurial law firm. We just in the last few years have changed our contractual mandatory retirement age to 67. So perhaps we might be a little ahead of the curve. I don't know.
I think you are.
So we're at 67 at the moment. But I think also there's a huge, as you say, people getting, are healthier, they're living longer. But by the same, in the same breath, in a way, people perhaps don't want to work as long because they want to go and either do other things or pursue leisure activities, or go on travel expeditions, or perhaps retool in some other kind of profession. So I think you're having both things can happen at the same time. You can have people who don't want to work beyond 55, 60, and you have to be able to cater for that. And then you have to cater for those that want to work for longer. Again, what's good for the organization as opposed to what's good for the individual. I think generally, it's good to have a default, and people can plan and work their lives around that. But then you also have to be able to be nimble and agile enough to cater for those people who might want to work longer. Now, just because you stop, you retire from the partnership at 67, doesn't mean you can't still be a fully contributing member of the firm. It might be in a consultancy basis, it might be on some other basis, but if you show the willingness and the desire and the engagement with clients, and you're still entrepreneurial and want to do that, then a firm like Fladgate, I'm sure, will find a place. But I think it's about being flexible and allowing for those different scenarios to be catered for.
Okay. And I guess now, for yourself, looking back over your career so far, still a long way to go.
Sound old,
looking back, what would you say is the best bit of advice you've been given?
I think it's advice that my cousin gave me when I was starting out on my career. It was over a meal, and he said to me, he's a very established and successful business person, and he said, Grant, you may want to be in a rush and get to be ambitious and get to where you want to get to, but he said, always trust the analogy of the bus. And I said, what does that mean? He said, you see that number 9 bus that you've just missed? Don't worry, there's another one 8 minutes behind. And I think I've always held that. And the fact that I can remember it now indicates that it meant something, and it does mean something. And I think that was a piece of advice that really helped to temper ambition for myself. And if you miss something else will come along. Maybe better opportunity, maybe not, but something else will come along.
Or maybe with aircon on.
Yeah, if they're sticking to the timetable. Just don't snatch at things, I think, is the point. And don't always, and I think embedded in there is an issue, a commentary on regret as well. Don't regret things. So you might have missed an opportunity. Don't regret it. Go be open and be available for the next opportunity that comes by. And I think that was something that stuck with me.
And has your cousin been a mentor in your life? Have you had a mentor in the law?
I've had, I think, lots of people I've learned from. I don't think I've had one particular mentor that's, say, taken me under his or her wing and kind of guided me through things. I've had lots of people that I've learned from. I try and learn from anyone who I interact with. I've learned huge amounts from my clients.
And recruiters.
And definitely from recruiters. Especially from you, Jonathan. But I would definitely say I've learned from many different people, not one particular mentor, but everyone adds their worldview. And if you're in the privileged position of being a lawyer and being an advisor, you're in the privileged position of understanding their worldview. And so hopefully you can take things from different clients, from different people that you interact with. That's one of the most amazing things about being an advisor and being a lawyer, is that you just get access to different worlds.
And looking back on your career, is there any personal habits you've had or got that has contributed to your success? Any disciplines in your life that we can share on the camera?
I don't think I would say that there are any particular disciplines. I don't have kind of a health regime or a fitness regime that I turn to. For me, it's just about finding a bit of balance, trying to switch off at important times. I use, whether it's the weekends or the evenings. I think in everything, moderation is key. And we certainly all work in a very, very challenging profession. And you have to maintain balance. So I don't think I have anything particular that I would say has got me through, or a special trick. If anything, just take time off and enjoy the good things, because, it does flit by very quickly.
We're talking about enjoying good things. I'm going to conclude with a few personal, quick-fire, fun, personal questions.
Go for it.
So, wine or beer, or neither?
Whiskey.
Whiskey, okay, that was a third choice. Summer or winter?
Oh, summer, for sure.
Cooking at home or dining out?
At home.
Okay. Emails or phone calls?
Neither.
Okay.
Phone calls.
City break or beach holiday?
Beach holiday. Got to be horizontal.
So I won't ask about skiing then. Speaking every language or playing instruments?
Speak every language, I think.
Particular favourite type of music?
Anthemic dance tunes.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that.
I'm sure you were. If I said trance, you'd be even more horrified.
Suit or casual?
Casual. I put on a jacket just for you.
Oh, thank you. So did I for you. Brilliant. Well, look, thank you very much for your time, Grant, and in talking to me.